There was also another case in the news where they were talking about in El Paso, taking that the El Paso city government was going to put in a entertainment venue in a section of the town where there was a significant Hispanic monument. Um, I suppose during the war, um, during the war that occurred in the state that protected the displaced, and it was a community where um, Mexicans who were displaced during the Texas Revolutionary War or whatever, um, were displaced to this community, and it has a lot of Victorian homes and old buildings. And there's this one old lady there that's protecting it, and the mayor of the city is vouching, and who's white, he's not Hispanic at all, um, vouching to put in this entertainment venue and saying that the it would increase the business in that area, which is complete bullshit. Because if you've ever been to any kind of entertainment venue of any sort in the city, you would know that the people in that city and the state are going to pay taxes on that venue. Um, Possibly the state, but the city for certain are going to be paying taxes to set up that venue. And on top of that, if they're considering El Paso, if you know about El Paso, I think that there is, I can't seem to recall they have prisons around El Paso, and also it's close to the border, so there's a potential of drug trafficking and prisoners and all sorts of concerns. Even if it doesn't exist, it is a concern of people that are occupying that city. um, they're probably not going to be interested in going to the surrounding area where that venue is at if there is a potential, not so much for crime, but not for adequate lighting, call boxes, or security. And that would benefit the community as well, which would produce um, better business because but the thing is it might be a cost to that community. So they shouldn't tax the community where it's occurring, because otherwise it will pretty much obliterate all business in the area. So it would they would have to be concerned also about the people in that community, and they're obviously not concerned at all because they're taking out a a potential landmark for a historical, um, for a Hispanic historical landmark. And there was somebody saying there that less than 2% of landmarks are Hispanic oriented landmarks in America. And so we need to protect um, our cultures, our cultures within our culture, which is going to attract um, it's going to attract visitors. Um, these entertainment venues only displace where people are going to find their entertainment. It's probably going to give money to the city, in which they're just going to build other buildings, which may not even benefit the entire city. It's just going to make the city bigger, and as you increase the size of your city, you're going to um, it's really just going to make it's just going to increase the density population. They probably are trying to increase the value for the land around El Paso and change people's perceptions of it, but it may not change anything, and especially if they're not concerned for their own citizens and in that way. I just feel like there are a lot of places in America where um, they're trying to improve, they're trying to increase the value of land, and trying to bring in people, say from other countries that have money, to occupy cities, and they don't realize that it's probably not going to have the desired effect, especially now that we have COVID and we have all this debt and everything. I don't see us paying it back with venues. I don't see people going out to venues during COVID. They can't go to venues like that because, and so it's just kind of like, what are you thinking? You know, what's your motivation for such things? Are you trying to get the Hispanics out of that community? Are you trying to drive off the minorities that could add some value and some diversity to your city? And I would say that America should put less of a concern over the people coming over the border from Mexico, and to see the cities that are on the border of Mexico, that their primary consumers are not going to be the Anglo-Saxons, the white people from the north, but going to be the people from Mexico that are going to come up and occupy, are going to become citizens and occupy these cities, and they're going to develop businesses, and they're going to bring money back to those communities because that's where their home is. Okay, they're not going to move into the other cities in the rest of America, because there's not a significant Hispanic population, in other cities, unless people were driven to live elsewhere. I'd say that most of them are going to live close to the border of Mexico, but that I I do have a little bit of racism in me, and it's because I just don't know how to deal with races, minorities, or race. They're probably not even minorities now. We could be the minorities, but the idea is that I don't know how to deal with such situations, and I'm not fluent or understanding of Hispanics, and but I'm understanding that in such communities, whenever you have anything big come in, there's always a potential for loss of business, rather than there is a potential for advancement, and that it's only wishful thinking of the planners that it's going to bring business, and it really depends upon people in the city having the money to spend in those areas, that probably the only ones who are ever going to go to those venues are the officials, or the people who are making a lot of money. um, so the government officials and the business and the high end business owners are going to go to operas or whatever, um, to these functions. And during COVID, why would they? I mean, why would you go to places where people might not be properly vaccinated, or you know, why would other people who are vaccinated not go to places where there might be not a, you know, in any case, it's people are not going to go to big functions during COVID, and so this is not the time to be doing these developments. Even, you have to be concerned for the workers that are working on these buildings, that they also have to be concerned for their own safety. Um, but it may bring them a source of employment. So maybe now is the best time for construction workers and for people that will be um, do, making buildings for a future when COVID is overcome. There's it, you know, any catastrophe always brings about some other form of business as a result, because because fear can drive people away and create new opportunities for people to come in and take over. And that's probably the reason why some of this stuff is occurring. I try to really think about what it is, you know, all the different concerns, even though some of them may be completely moot. Um, I just tend to kind of overthink them, and I'm not really that much concerned about whether the ideas can be racist or seen as racist, because even if I haven't completely evaluated what I'm saying, and I might have some amount of racism as a result of the culture that I'm familiar with, because I'm not very well integrated with other races. Um, I and I have uh, pre um, preconceived notions about, you know, say Southern Dallas. Who's going to go to South Dallas? Because there was a time in the '80s when South Dallas had a lot of crack houses, and so who would go to South Dallas? It would be really, but there are people who don't have any problem with going to South Dallas that would have a better opportunity to set up businesses there, because they understand that it doesn't have the kind of crime or problems that it used to have. And so, and also minorities that are not familiar, I mean, not minorities, but immigrants who are not familiar with the cities are going to occupy wherever they can, and, you know, wherever they can afford, regardless of whether or not there is crime, that in their own countries they may have experienced war, and can deal with the stress that any amount of crime could bring on. So it's really just a matter of your comfort level and your concept of what security is, and how much you can manage your security. Um, so catastrophes that, like COVID, that bring on evacuations of businesses, of venues and things that would otherwise be filled with people, because we're dealing with a virus right now, and people are quarantining themselves. If they're not being quarantined, they're choosing to quarantine. Um, they're going to be turning to other sources of entertainment like VR headsets, which we're finding a growth in people using VR headsets and going to functions in virtual reality. And the experience you have whenever you go to such functions, while they're not up to par with real life um, functions that would occur, you don't have to deal with parking expenses. You don't have to deal with the potential of danger to yourself. There's no potential to be raped. There's no potential to get in fights. They're all the things that you associate with a venue. The potential dangers don't exist in VR. And so people find it like an instantaneous gratification, an instantaneous social function, that people can go and talk to each other, and that there is no racism involved, especially if the people choose not to color their avatars um, brown or white or stuff like that. They're going to lose that that natural sense for looking at people, the clothes they wear, and the way their skin looks and stuff like that. That's all going to go away, and people are going to more easily come together and discuss stuff, and possibly even if they have differences, discuss their differences. And people who have a tendency to want to control others, who would get in fights, just get instantly blocked. And when you block somebody in alt space VR, the person that is causing harm to you, verbally, gets disappears, as well as you to them disappear. And so both of you disappear to each other, and they don't see you and you don't see them, and problem solved. The only problem is that if they start talking to other people, you'll find this this phenomena of people talking to ghosts, and then you realize there are people that you blocked. So there is a tendency for people that have blocked people will go in and clear out all the blocked people that they blocked before, so that they'll see them again. Um, so there's a kind of a certain amount of, you know, to avoid the situation where people are talking to ghosts. They will unblock the people, and they're so in there's a little bit of forgiveness. But VR is going to take up, in this time of COVID, is going to take up a lot of the kind of businesses that you would have, entertainment venues. It's not going to take over soccer or football or any of that kind of stuff, but it is going to take over, people going to bars, because you can drink in your own home. You don't have to worry about having a designated driver, and you can talk to people in a virtual bar, be drunk just as you would in real life, and and see people doing karaoke and stand up and doing all the same sort of things that they would do in a real social venue. And for the musicians, it's better for them, because then they don't have to deal with a concern for their security. Say if they said something accidentally that was racist, um, if you were in a regular venue, you'd be afraid for your life, because somebody in the audience might disagree with you and come out to get you. So, and it's also great for people who are rape victims, people who are in the LGBTQ community. I don't even consider the Q there, because what the heck is a queer? You know, there's lesbians, gay, LGBT, bi, transsexuals. Um, I think I don't understand what a queer, what the difference of a queer is. I know what the plus is. I'm the plus. I'm the one who's respecting of that community, and I don't think a lot of them even include the Q, because it's derogatory. But anyhow, that's kind of, I just keep putting stuff out here, and you're probably wondering why I'm doing a lot more talking. And I've told you that I masturbate, and in the past day I've gotten off 3 times, so I've got a lot of dopamine running around my brain, and as a result of that, good and bad things, um, I mean, any kind of amount of thought is going to come out of my mouth, because it's the same effect as, say, a politician or somebody giving a talk doing a little bit of cocaine before, to get over the anxieties. But it also makes you super creative. And that's what happens in artists. This reason why artists would take a drug like cocaine is it would make them go out and produce more work. Um, Amphetamines would have the same effect too. It would make them produce more work. This is the reason why researchers take amphetamines. They take Adderall, which is amphetamines, Ritalins, amphetamines. They're focus drugs. They make you more, um, lively, and but over time can develop into, um, into um, dopamine resistance, and people will get more depressed, and the drug will have less of an effect because the body will be resistant to the dopamine. The funny thing is that I don't think this happens with sexual activity. I think um, you can have a lot of sex and not ever you won't develop a dopamine resistance. I don't think it'll ever occur because the amount of dopamine that's produced is not the same as a narcotic. So